Welcome back. It's me, Jesse from Lights Camera Dad. Today I want to talk about composition. I'm not going to do much editing, but I just want to show you a few images here and talk about something very important, which is composition. If you're an advanced photographer, obviously this is one of the biggest aspects that you consider when taking a photo. But if you're new and starting and trying to figure out how to take your photos to the next level, it might not be the settings in your camera. It might actually be composition that you need to focus on to bring it to another level. So let's just go into here. Now here's a photo I took, and this is my very cute little son, Jackson. He's 3 years old. And so took this this fall. But there's a few things we need to look at here. Now, number one, composition can be broken down in a few different things. First thing, and they'll teach you in pretty much any art class anywhere, something called the rule of thirds. And basically all you do is you divide the frame up into 3 equal parts, both vertically and horizontally. So you can see here there's 1, 2, 3 parts, and then going up, same thing, 3 parts. And that makes this grid right here. Now you might see that grid on your cell phone or something, and you just turn it off and say, "What? I don't understand the point of that." Well, it actually does have a very good point. Number one, it helps you, and we'll talk about right now, is it helps you actually line up the image. A rule of thumb, it doesn't always have to be this way, but it really does work if you're in a pinch, is to put the eyes, if you're taking a photo of a person, on one of these lines, top and bottom here. If you do that, you're going to have something called the correct headspace. Now let me just show you here. Initially, every time you see a portrait like this, you're going to think about the top line, but you can actually change that. Let's go like this. And it actually, this one I might have to move a little more. There we go. It actually doesn't feel weird either. This one I wouldn't probably do this. If I had something a lot more interesting up here, I might do that. But you basically want to move onto one of these lines. Now the next thing is you also want to be on the side that the person is looking away from. So you don't want to be this way. Da-da-da. See how they're turned? Now, he's looking back towards me, but the way he's faced and positioned is into this part. You want the room of the frame to be on this side, right here. Just like this. Here we go. Oops, sorry. Just like this. It gives you talk space is what they call it. When I did a lot of TV stuff, it was always about headspace and talk space, and you want to lead the camera and leave room for where the person is facing. You don't, and this is usually what happens, is people frame up a picture, bang, right like that, right in the middle, no talk space at all, and right in the middle of the frame. That isn't interesting. We need to create a better composition so that people want to look at the picture and feel more welcome to it. And you can see as I flip through these different things here, it actually feels different every time I flip around the crop. Lightroom obviously makes it very easy to crop these images. Okay, let's go to the next one. Same kind of thing here. This is another person. Now in this case, I didn't put her eyes on this. Reason being is I didn't want to lose any of her hand because it is framed in here nicely. And I'll show you what happens if I do this. If I were to do that, I'd actually lose part of the hands, and that looks weird. And you know, you can kind of make it about the face. If I put some more blur in there, maybe that would work, but I didn't want to do that. I liked how it was all kind of wrapping around. Now, another thing, however, though, she does have the correct talk space. She's on this line here. So if she was looking the other way, I would put her on this line. See how that works? So this grid, this rule of thirds, is to help you. If you put the eyes anywhere in these 4 sections here, you're usually going to have a decently framed image. Depending on what way they're facing, of course, determines on which one you're on there. Now let's go to a landscape. Landscapes, people complain the most to me, like, oh, with a landscape you have to worry about straight images. Yeah, I understand. We'll get to that in a second. But first thing I want to show here is the landscape is, I took a very, it's a pretty wide photo. Yeah, it was fully 24 millimeter wide on a full frame, so it's a lot. But if you look here at the composition, I have potential for a nice composition, but all this dead space here, which is just dark and muddy, I wanted to lose. And so really, you're just pulling your composition. Now, the same kind of principle applies. This spot right here should have some interest along with these spots here. And if you can make that happen versus just making it dead center and then cutting off these mountains and stuff, if you can actually keep the interest in one of those third intersections, you are going to get a much more visually pleasing image. Just like that. I'm actually going to push this even a little more. I don't want to lose any of the mountains. I don't want to lose any of the boat there. But I want to lose that big dark spot. So there you go. Nicely framed. Now the thing about this image is it has a foreground, the mid, and the background, and of course the sky. I love to layer my images. And that's really going to give you, especially for landscapes, it's going to give you a lot more interest. I could just kind of, if I were just to crop out the boats altogether, it still can be nice, but how much better is it when you have actually an interesting foreground along with the interesting background too? So you want to be looking for things to put in your foreground so your landscape looks more interesting. Composition. Here is an elk. If he's going to res up there. There he is. Now I want to show you what I did with this one. I was driving and I saw this guy on the side of the road, so I decided to pull over and take it. So I'll show you here. It was very, oh, that looks really nice there. Yeah, okay, but it's not it's too much dead space here with this elk. And I had a piece of the road and stuff too, so I wanted to lose all that. So I brought him way down. See, I'm putting him in the middle of this line here. Now this tree also helps me because it also helps define the foreground, and then there's the background fading out into the top. One thing here is, as you can tell, it doesn't look straight. I'll talk about that in a minute. I'll just straighten this one out here, like that. I'll talk about that. Which one? This one. This one here, just, another landscape. The one thing that we have to make sure of, and I see it actually quite a bit, and people just don't recognize, and I'm guilty of it too. I used to never recognize this, but the horizon needs to be straight. You can see when I originally took it. Now, if you have like a Nikon or something, you have that awesome little gyroscope in there to tell you if you're level, or you can just use your tripod if it has a level thing on there as well. So you can get it kind of in the ballpark. And when I'm in the middle of nowhere, I just kind of ballpark it, and then I know I can fix it later. And so here you can tell I am off-centered, off-level, sorry. So in Lightroom, I just click on my little crop tool, and I can actually drag the frame so I can level it back. Also, there's another cool tool, this little angle tool, and you can just actually click and drag across, and it'll level it there for you. So straight horizons is incredibly important. If I see a landscape on Instagram, even if it looked like this with all the stars and stuff, which is great, if it looked like that, I'm going to skip over that thing because clearly it's just not, no one's taken the time to actually make a good composition with it. So I always make sure that my horizon is straight. You also want to do that with buildings or trees and things like that. And sometimes if you have a lens that distorts, you have to bring it into Photoshop and really work on straightening it out. Anyway, so there's an example of the horizon, and let's see what else I have here. Yeah, this image, same thing, beautiful foreground, but in this case, I had too much of the foreground. And so it's just a little too much. I wanted it to be a little closer, so I just cropped it in a bit. And you're like, it's not losing too much, and it pulls you a little deeper into the frame. Finally, what I want to talk about is something in that last image had it too, is something called leading lines. What you want is working with your rule of thirds, working with your straight horizon. You want lines leading into your image. And that's what a road really can give you. So you're automatically drawn in when you look at this right into the center, and then your eye is going to start to explore there. Same with this guy here. This one actually has certain lines leading into it as well. It kind of it shoots you off a little bit, but this one I actually thought about this, and I actually framed up this tree here, so you would look at this tree and then look up to the mountain and stuff. So you want to use your landscape around you to create lines that will help people look at your image longer. But composition is very, 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 very important, obviously. There's a lot more to it. That's just a quick intro. If you want to learn more about composition and some other basic photography things, I'm going to put a link in the bottom to my photography basics course. And it's just five articles I wrote about, some basic things from getting first taking a photo, getting it right to social media. So there's some steps that you would probably really benefit from if you're learning how to do this. So thanks for watching. Remember to head over to lightscameradad.com and give me a like and a subscribe. Thanks for watching.